Katherine Plouffe, fresh off a European road trip for basketball. I am so excited to see you, and thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on, Jared. Excited for our conversation.
So right now, I feel like we are in a peak moment of 3-on-3's sort of popularity in its introduction to the basketball community. And when I think about 3-on-3 basketball, a huge thing that kind of jumps out at me is the versatility needed to be successful, regardless of whatever your 5-on-5 position is on paper. You have to be able to have a bunch of different skills. And I feel like when it comes to versatility, especially on the women's side of 3-on-3, I would point your film out specifically to a lot of people. So my first question for you is, was there sort of a point where you acknowledged as a player that like your versatility was a huge strength of what you did?
That's a good question. Well, I guess how I landed and launched into 3x3 was an accumulation of different events where I was leaving 5-on-5 national team, had an opportunity with my sister and one of our teammates, Paige Crozen, to start the team. And so it wasn't necessarily a strategic thought out, my skill set is going to be a great fit for 3x3. There was just a confidence and excitement of like, let's try this sport and see what could happen. Was I confident in my abilities overall as a player? Yeah, but I didn't see really the strengths come to play until I started playing and saw like, okay, wow, like not only myself, but my teammates, we have a great combination of skill sets that allow us to be really successful in the game. So that's fun when the skills and the different strengths combine to create a great product and finish on the court. Like, it's a blessing for sure.
I have to ask as a follow-up to that, you know, you've been a competitive athlete for a really long time, forgetting about status, like whether you're pro, collegiate, amateur, you've been playing the game for so long. Yeah. Is there a certain feeling that sort of clicks when you start playing 3-on-3 and you're like, whoa, this happens to like really expose a lot of the best parts of my skill set? Like, what's that feeling like?
Oh, you know what? It is. I'm not sure. It is such a creative game because it's new strategy. And I think that's an exciting part for me as a player is that, I mean, I don't play 5-on-5 anymore. I just play 3x3. And so the transition into 3x3 is like, wow, we can do something really new and cool and strategize in a different way, to think differently about the game, about how we use the court, about how we use our strengths. And we really, as a team, like have, and I think the sport in itself, because you have to be so versatile, like you said, is that it like allows for so much freedom to develop. And that's something that's always been exciting for me is like, okay, cool. Like, where can I grow as a person, as a player? And that can be, you know, like it's very exposing, like you said, of your strengths, also your weaknesses.
Right.
you get exposed. And I think like players who play, there's a quality of like, if you are humble and know that you'll get exposed, but you know your strengths, you're willing to work at some of the gaps to fill for your team, it can be like a really fun launch into a new type of player and a new type of style of basketball.
On the subject of that style, you mentioned your teammates, one of the teammates being your sister.
Yeah.
And one of the really unique things about the 3-on-3 game is the old school backyard component of I can kick out the ball to my sister past the 3-point line, and as soon as it's there, she could just fire it back to me. Totally. So I'm used to telling people at the 5-on-5 level, like, you don't have time to sulk after a missed shot. You have to get home in transition. Mm-hmm. That's at least 4 real-time seconds.
Yeah.
I have clips of you on YouTube lined up of outletting the ball and getting it back to score in less than 1 second.
Yeah.
Can you speak to that speed change and what it's like? Because you just talked about limitations being exposed. I imagine that transition point's a huge part of it.
Yeah, that came with time and repetitions for sure of like, honestly, what's the best way we can conserve our energy because we're so exhausted when we're playing. And so
Right.
it's like the easiest thing sometimes is the most necessary thing to do because it's a sprint and a marathon. Like we're like it is the most tiring sport I've ever played ever. Like hands down, there's no 5-on-5 game that made me more tired than a 3x3 tournament. Um, and it's like the conservation of energy, the ways to be more efficient. We always are trying to look at like how can we be the most efficient in the least time possible, or
Mm.
even getting a positive result out of a play or action on the court. We're looking to see how can we capitalize on fewer actions to get a shot, to get a great shot. So that's like the strategy involved. And the first quickest way is to have a transition and right back in. Like
Mm.
China, Team China on the women's side, their whole strategy last year, it's a little bit different now because they have a different, I think they have a slightly different roster, but they were the biggest team across their roster in height. And one of their main strategies was just kick it back out, already have a seal and post up so that they can kick it back in. Like that was probably they got 10 points a game on doing that. So,
It's
yeah.
is it fair to say then, because I feel like a lot of people listening, this is going to be their intro to understanding 3x3.
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that one of the most valuable things then in 3x3 is a defensive rebound?
Yes. Defensive rebound and a quick transition for sure.
Mm,
Hmm.
that's
And
so.
it is so interesting because when I play with um, local guys here to like bring them in, train with them, build a bigger group to train with because we need more people playing 3x3 to train 3x3. And so that's the biggest difference of playing the speed of the game is they don't know yet the speed of the game of like transition and how quick it can move on a pass. Obviously, it's quicker than a dribble. Um, but it's so fun. You don't have time to like think your shots looking nice and going in because the other team's already playing transition. So that would be a key to the game for sure.
Well, and we're gonna revisit this later, and I look forward to asking you about it. But it sounds like a next play mentality is mission critical
Yeah,
to your
totally.
game.
Totally.
Yeah, I look forward to exploring that more shortly. When you and I first spoke in trying to set this up, I shared with you a piece of data that I got from college coaches that talked about positions in basketball and how the average high school kid thinks they're getting recruited to play a certain position, but the average college coach does not think that's going to be their actual position through their college career, that there's really no expectation.
Yeah.
And you responded almost immediately, did you know I was recruited to Marquette at a different position than I played? And I had no idea.
Yeah.
I would love it if you could share a little bit of that experience, because there are so many athletes that are confronted with that ask from a coaching staff and don't always know what to make of it.
Yeah. So when I was growing up, Michelle and I played different positions. I was usually a few inches looking back at photos. I was like, wow, I was quite a bit shorter than her. So, which is so surprising because now I outgrew her. But at the time, she was like the 4'5" forward. I was a little bit smaller. I was like the 1-2-3. So we'd cover all the positions together in whatever role we had to play. And and I think a couple of things went into that is that our mindset from a young age was we had a couple different coaches who allowed us to play with them on their older teams. So we were quite young playing with older girls, and so we were not the biggest fish in the pond. We didn't have a choice. Like I preferred to do XYZ on the court.
Mm,
We were just there to show up to learn and to fulfill whatever the team needed. And so that was a big foundational point was that we didn't have preferences. We just wanted to play basketball and learn and grow and be better players and have an opportunity to play. Um, and then in high school, like we did quite well. We had iron sharpens iron. I wouldn't be the player I am without her for sure. And we had each other going into different situations. We were younger, we were smaller, whatever it was. And so we built a skill set of, like learning being the smaller players, going back to our team who were maybe our same age, and we're the taller players. So we
Right.
developed this skill set of versatility, I think, because of those opportunities. And but same thing in high school, which was the most competitive. We played on our provincial teams, and on that team, like I had a different role than she did, and whatnot. But it was always kind of like what the team needed. I was ready to do, and so in in high school, you know what? Looking back, like I don't even know what my coaches told me what position they'd recruit me as. Like maybe a three. I'm really unsure because in high school I played like a 1, 2, 3.
Right, because you did
And
everything.
yeah, and when I went to Marquette, we had a senior. I think she was a sixth year senior at that point because she had a couple injuries. She was the center. She got injured again at the beginning of the season, and my mindset going in was not of high expectations that I'd play or that I, already earned a whatever spot. Like I just knew I was going there to work hard and learn and like play basketball and whatever the team needed, I would do. Like I really, I wasn't, I knew I was coming into a bigger pond. Like I was going to be a small fish. Everyone who was going to a high level university or even, like post high school career, you're going to be a smaller fish in the pond, so to speak, for most cases, because in high school you stand out. You're going to go to a next team where there's a bunch of high school standouts. Um, so I went there and um, there was injuries on my team and I'd never played a post position before, ever. Like I would never played back to the basket. I was always a guard. And my coach was like, okay, KP, that's what they called me. They're like, you're going to be the starting center. And I was like, excuse me. Like I was like, are you sure? Like, are you sure? Like, I have never played this position before. There's a couple older girls on my team who, maybe one who like could have been she was more of a forward. Um, but they decided I was like the tallest person and I was willing and I worked my butt off. So I was there and I got this opportunity. I would say I was the hardest worker in definitely my freshman class of like just willing to put the work in. Um, and had a great foundation of principles and values from different coaches who you show up, you work hard. I had respect for my coaches, so I was like, whatever you ask of me, I will do to the best of my abilities. I was trying to be excellent in whatever I was doing, and so the opportunity came and I was like, okay, if that's what the team needs, I will learn that position. Was it hard? Heck yes. There was lots of tears. Lots of tears, lots of like, okay, go work on a side basket of your skills because we're gonna need you to be better to come back to the team. So it was super frustrating, not gonna lie. Um, but was it valuable for my overall development as a player? 1,000%. And so I think maybe sometimes like in youth and even high school and college careers, if like what is the ultimate goal for you as a player? Like is it sticking to what you know to be comfortable, what you want to do, or could an opportunity arise where maybe it's different and uncomfortable, but it could open doors to whatever the team needs? I think it's you need a level of humility to succeed as a player and especially as a team because it's a team sport, it's a team environment where you might be asked by your coaches or your teammates to do something that's not comfortable for you to do or not that you want to do. Like I know players want to, I don't know if players want to be point guards these days, but like maybe,
Everybody wants to be a guard. I can tell you.
yeah,
Everybody wants
shooting
to be a
guard.
guard.
The shooting guard. But like to be a true point guard, it's like you're a distributor. Do players want to be
Yeah.
the distributor and have like high level passing and high level IQ? I don't know if that's glamorized these days. So I see less of it for sure of great passers, but
Right.
that could also be a huge role where you could stand out if you're trying to be excellent in that. So does that answer your question? I don't know.
100%. And it also leaves me with an interesting thought because I mean, there is no point of either my college experience or my professional career in coaching where I could have predicted to you where I ended up 5 years from
Yeah.
that time.
Yeah.
Is there any moment as you're going through this experience at Marquette, and for the listeners who might not know this, the thing that happens for you during your experience at Marquette is you become better and better at a forward position, which also unlocks the trust with your coaching staff. And then you get to do some of your guard stuff too. And the next thing you know, you're shooting threes, you're dishing the ball, you're doing all these things. Is there any moment where you're thinking to yourself, I'm going to just become like a point forward professionally now? Did you have that vision even remotely because of this?
I I didn't have like, it's funny enough, like I didn't have a dream years in advance to say like that's why I'm doing things. It
Yeah.
was honestly like just, and my coaches really, like I struggle a lot with like being confident even who I was as a player and the skill set I had. Um I remember my freshman year, so I'd been starting as a center, and I was, you know, like my first year developing all these new skills. I still had a lot of skill sets from previous. It's not like I just lost them; they were just being used differently. And I remember we went to the NCAA tournament, and we played Tennessee at Tennessee in the second round. So as if we won, we were going to the Sweet 16, and we lost. I forget by how many, but I remember my coach saying after to me like, "Oh, like basically the message being like, you're a great player if you like play like it. Like we want you to build the confidence because you could be great." But the message was like, if you like scored 10 more points, we would have won. Basically.
Mm.
And you know, like the heart, she was trying to say like you can do more. Like you are a great player. Like go out and be a great player. But for me, I always had a struggle of like, okay, how much do I have to hold back? I don't know why I had this hold back mentality, which is, you know, like who knows what I could have done. I don't know. I had a great career and really grateful, but that's been the like thorn of like, okay, just go for it. Like be all in. I think sometimes we think we're all in and going after something and pushing ourselves, but I feel like there's always an extra level of like, and then what, you know, like a little bit more.
I want to share this with you because you'd have no way of knowing this before having this conversation with me. What you just said out loud is one of the biggest frustration points that current scholarship level coaches bring up to me. That they get a sense that their players are holding themselves back. And what I'm hearing, at least anecdotally, is fear of letting their teammates down. Am I too selfish if I take 5 or 6 more shots a game? If I try to attempt this pass that no one else on my team makes and it goes wrong, have I put this team in a, horrible position? And my messaging back has always been like, well, we'll never know if you don't do it.
Yeah, totally.
So I'm actually really, really grateful that you shared this, because I think there's a lot of young athletes, especially on the women's side, that kind of have that fear of like, what happens if I unlock that next gear?
Yeah. Yeah. Isn't that interesting? I think it's so fascinating. I like the deeper dives of like, why do we think certain things? Like what what creates our mindset and perspective on how we view the world, how we view ourselves in the world, and like, how do we course correct? Because for me, when I even say that out loud, I'm like, okay, well, there's that fear. But if I had this, we could go back. These obviously are things and patterns that come back from like how we're raised. So parenting is
right
thing. But it's like comes from, we have we know we have trust in our coaches, our teammates to some extent, but like a big part is our coaches. We trust them. We know we're loved, we're valued regardless of how we perform. That is sets the biggest foundation of a player trusting themselves to go out and try, like to go out and like give a little bit extra, knowing that like, okay, their teammates might have something to say, but like that's okay. You gotta know your vision and your values and what you wanna how you wanna show up as a person, as a player. That is very important to know internally, so that when you don't perform, when different things come up, maybe when your teammates are mad, like you still know how you showed up, that you know you're living according to your values, and that's the most important thing. Mm-hmm.
I wish more young people understood how important that is at that age.
Yeah.
Right? It's a different thing to be in our 30s
totally.
and be like, this is really, now we get it.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of younger people realize when we give them advice, we're not actually saying, do what I did. We're saying, do what I didn't. And maybe you'll overcome this obstacle quicker than I did.
Yeah.
So I think it's
Yeah.
really interesting that you said that.
So for you, like when you hear that, like what do you think is the solution? Like if young athletes are feeling like that and it's not just words, like how does that look in action of how to help an athlete overcome that?
I can tell you what mine is, and I think my answer will be a little different than other coaches because my background before I got into coaching was student affairs administration and counseling.
Okay.
So I always try to empathetically listen first. Like long before we're on the court coming up with a solution, there's a 20 to 30 minute sit down in my office and we're just talking it out and trying to flesh out like, what does your next level actually look like? And then my immediate next thing is making sure that they understand that a realistic way of getting to the next level is not furiously cannonballing into the deep end of the pool, right? So an example I would give is if I have a right-hand dominant forward who is really capable of going left and mid-range jump shooting, but has been kind of afraid to bust it out in games, we end that conversation. We watch a little bit of film, and then our workout is very basic things to get her left hand going. Not, I hate saying it this way, but like not what you see on Instagram. Not 45 minutes of dribbling through a twister, dribbling through a twister board or doing all these crazy things. It's more, hey, let's fake right, drop step, counter left. And let's get like 10 makes. And then once you get your 10 makes, I'm going to hit you with a pad a little bit. So you feel really good about it. And a lot of times, I guess it would fall into the category, Katherine, of trying to generate confidence in a controlled environment. But then the next step and the way we end it is, I'm going to celebrate in game you trying it, not the result. So I actually have a very vintage memory of a kid who, like, the team understood what she was trying to do for the team and how she would grow. And even if she didn't do it successfully, the talk on the team would say, great decision, great decision, great decision. So even if she was running back on defense and upset about it, her mind was like, okay, I'm helping my teammates. That didn't go well, but I'm helping my team. That would probably be the best example I can give you because I think you'd understand this, especially with your own experience. How helpful am I if I just break your confidence? If I make it worse?
Yeah. Not.
So, yeah, and I would say as a coach, the moments I regret the most are the moments where I got too heated or like too emotional in the moment. And I did that to someone. And then of course, like that night I'm at home being like, why did I do that?
Yeah, totally.
So does that answer it for you? Like, does that give a vision of
thought process? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So actually now let's flip it for you. You are trying to pick up these skills to be a forward. We know kind of what your guard skills are. What are some of the moments where you started to feel better and more comfortable about that skill set? Like, what did that work look like for you?
Oh man. That's a good question. I honestly don't remember specifically. I think just getting comfortable having my back to the basket. It's just different if you're used to facing and now you're back to the basket and then you have to square up and face the basket. Just slightly different, like tactical footwork things.
Sure.
Even finishing, like slightly different. I don't know, at the rim. Just lots of repetitions, honestly. And did I break a lot of layups? Yeah, sure did. I remember like having anxiety of like, I was a great runner, like transition. I would just be gone and my point guard would pass me the ball in transition. 1-0. And I remember like there was a time when like my coaches and everyone on the bench probably like held their breath that it was just me in the room because I just started off like breaking just anxiety around like, oh my gosh, 1-0. I overthought things so much.
Yep.
So funny. even through my professional career, like I remember I was very aware of um, my coach's reactions and um, their emotions. Like I was just in tune, and so when they were anxious, I would be anxious, or like that probably was a lot of internal assumptions too about like wanting to people please and all this kind of stuff. But so funny, different skill set for sure.
I I think that's really interesting because what you just said, in my opinion, is not just an important message for players, it's an
Mhm.
important message for coaches because
Mhm.
people would know you as being objectively great in the 3-on-3 game. And for you to say, like, just so you know, I'm also emotionally in tune to what's going on around me even now.
Yeah.
I think that's an important thing for coaches to keep and internalize as well. I want to, before we talk about really young Katherine Plouffe and give some advice to, high school kids going through the recruiting process,
Yeah.
I really want to break down 3-on-3 a little bit more because the game itself is so interesting to me.
Yeah.
I want to start by sharing that I was involved recently with the recruiting process before I got out of coaching of a Canadian forward. She's currently at Eastern Michigan. She's an outstanding all-conference caliber player. Her name is Cece Eleko,
Okay.
and I told Cece that I was going to be talking to you, and
Cool.
I asked her to come up with a couple questions for me because she's really interested in your career trajectory.
Awesome.
So, so the following two questions about 3-on-3 are from her.
Okay. See, I
Um,
got you.
she's gonna love that. The first one is just about, obviously you were 5-on-5 before you were 3-on-3.
Yeah.
Is there sort of a specific mental adjustment that you have to make going from 5-on-5 to 3-on-3? Like, do you kind of take off your 5-on-5 hat and put on your 3-on-3 hat? And, what does that look like?
Yes. Yes, definitely. I think, well, it depends on what kind of player, what kind of your style is. I was much more rigid and in the box as a 5-on-5 player due to like different teams and how I had to adjust. I just became more rigid in structure. Um, but it's a very open game. And one of the adjustments is that like in 5-on-5, sometimes you're looking for a great shot. Like you pass up the good to get a great shot.
Right.
In 3x3, like you don't have time for that. Uh when our first tournament when we played in the women's series in 2019, um the basically the one of the organizers from FIBA, she had some pity on us because it was our first tournament, first time
You
going
were new to the
together.
game, right?
Yeah, right up from the bottom. And she's like, I need to help you out. Like, you need to shoot way more twos. Because twos in 3x3, like it's double 1 point shot. So it just accelerates your ability to get to 21 way faster. And so we would be looking for, like a great shot when really like taking a two, even if it's like slightly contested or with a quicker pace than maybe you're used to, is a good shot to take because we only have 12 seconds to shoot. And so we need to take the shots that are open every time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so that helped me as a player because in fives I was in an overthinking mindset towards the end of my overseas career. And like I wouldn't take the open things. And so 3x3 kind of like it was a great timing where I had to get out of my own head. And it helped me because that was necessary for the team. Like I can't be passing up open looks,
Right.
even if I'm missing. Like there's just no capacity to be thinking about like the last play. And so even that next play mentality is super important. So just that transition of like being okay missing more shots than you're used to because you just miss. I don't know. I think I miss way more shots in threes because I take more. Like there's just more opportunity um for plays and shots to come that it's like I don't even think twice about like missing a shot anymore because I don't have time to or energy. Um and yeah, a mindset shift of like it is high collaborative in nature. And so we are coaching ourselves on the court. And for our team, we highly value the character of our teammates. And um, belief in each other is like what allows us to play our best, play our freest is when there's high trust and belief in all of our strengths. Um, and that we all have value to give. Like there's only 3 people on the court at the time. No one's hiding. And so everyone is a contributor. And so the like actual belief that everyone can contribute, we can't, I don't know if this happens in fives where like I see this person and like I don't know if they'd hit a shot, but like they'd hit a shot, like I don't know if that happens anymore, but we all trust each other and we all, like have to contribute. Um, Collectively as a team, our communication needs to be way higher on the court because we're coaching ourselves. We need to see the
Mm,
um, and I think this is such a great part of 3x3 is we get to develop that. Um, and taking that back to a 5-on-5 team, if you're playing both, like you develop your IQ where you have to strategize as a player in the court. You don't have a coach telling you like this is what's happening. You need to be
right.
tuned into what's happening so you can make those tweaks and adjustments in game. Um, yeah, and just requires some humility.
This is
Yeah.
this is so interesting to me, and it kind of tees up the next question very well, because you just talked about an experience where you stepped on a FIBA 3x3 court for the first time.
Yeah.
Her next question was, let's say I am a 5-on-5 hooper and I've never done this before, and I'm stepping on a 3x3 court for the first time. What give me your immediate coaching points, because I can only take in so much and I've never done this before. What would you say?
Oh boy. Oh, there's a lot. I think tactically, okay, there's tactically and then there's mindset. So,
Love it. Let's go tactics first, because I love that you divided it.
okay. uh, Tactically, the transition game is the most important. They're like having plays. It's so funny. Like our team has lots of plays and ideas for like check ball plays. 80% at least of the game is transition. And so even though we have like this would be sweet for a 2-point play, the majority of the game is going to be flow and cohesiveness on the court of principles. So the game is very principle based, which comes from fives. There's not like new principles that happen. There might be slightly different angles. And so this season, our team, like our I guess how we're like, we need to be faster was our first thought. And then the reality was we don't actually need to be faster. We need to have a greater change of pace. So we actually need to be slower in some areas and then be fast.
Mm,
And so tactically it's like be efficient in your actions, I'd say.
efficiency. Okay.
Efficiency in actions and which is transition game. It's the flow of the game is the majority. And so it's just basketball principles. Like there's no crazy secrets. It's basketball principles. And is that a tactic? I don't even know. That's not even helpful. Sorry, Cece.
I disagree. I feel like that's really helpful, because to me, I think what you're saying is you're stepping into something that's going to happen a lot faster.
Yep.
You need to find a way to be efficient without actually speeding yourself up and getting sloppy. That's kind of how I interpret what you said.
Thanks, Jared. That was good. You said it a lot more concise than I did, so that was teamwork. And then mindset wise, if you're going from 5-on-3 and stepping into 3x3 court, be okay with things not be okay with chaos is the mindset that we need to have. Because there are a lot of things that don't go our way or how we planned. And we're really learning this as a team still. It's like the more we are can work through things and we figure it out. It's like the figure it out mentality of like a defensive in 5-on-5, like defensive scramble where there's rotation, and it's a scramble. Similar in 3x3 because things move so fast, and even in a handoff action or a ball screen action, there is no help side. Like we don't do help side. That would be another tactical point. Don't help side.
Right.
That's
It's just you out there.
It's just you out there. That's a kick out too waiting to happen. But it's definitely a figure it out mentality and being okay with the chaos and knowing you're capable of figuring things out when things don't go your way. Biggest mindset shift for sure. coming from a structured 5-on-5 environment to what's happening? Like, I feel like I'm running around. It's okay. You're actually capable of figuring it out, even if it's not clear.
I'm almost embarrassed that I've never considered this until you just said what you said out loud. It's almost like 3x3, even though it's organized and there's tournaments, they've found a way to kind of capture the essence of chaotic old school 3-on-3 pickup basketball, which is you got to communicate your way through it. You got to be able to embrace the fact you're going to probably miss a lot more.
Totally.
And this makes me like it even more. Thank you so much for sharing that. Cece's going to be pumped. My last 3-on-3 related question for you is actually on the subject of what you just brought up. Okay. You talked a little bit about 2-man actions. If I put on my extremely dorky tactical coach's hat, I value 3-on-3 so much because when you do get set up into stuff, it's almost always a 2-man read. Either you have the ball as a point forward and there's action away from you, or you're setting a screen and you're part of the action. So you are constantly making decisions as either the passer leading to the next shot or the screener leading to the next read. I have to imagine you are drilling these things in training and practice at a rate that the average person can't imagine. Would you say that's the case?
Probably. You know, when I watch 5-on-5, my first thought is like, that is such an inefficient action. Like, they didn't even get anything off of that.
Right.
There's more people on the court, which is the factor involved. But because like there's no help side, like it's less of a consideration in the actual action, is because there's not like a second line defense that the passer is reading or the person coming off the screen is reading. So it's slightly different in that aspect, but decision making is happening all the time, which I think it's fun that way because, you know, there comes an extent too where it's like we didn't get the perfect read. Like if we're perfectionists here, we could be like, but we didn't really have them on our back. They were just on our side. So did we really get open? So there's like this both and of like making a right read for sure and the right decision, but also like, okay, even if it wasn't the 100% read, like go use your skills and like get the job done. Like there won't be, back to that, there won't be a perfect actions all the time. But that's highly repped, is making the least mistakes as possible because it's so exposing, especially on defense.
And building off that, because a very, very big pay point for high school athletes that I work with is realizing how much work it actually takes to be great at this game.
For sure. Yeah.
Right. And also the understanding, to your points earlier, that part of being great at this game is recognizing that there's always something that you can be working on and you're constantly in the lab. The last basketball really related thing I wanted to ask you was, are you comfortable sharing, like, when you're gearing up for a tournament, what does like a day in your training life look like? Like, how much time are you doing? What's the intensity like? Because I think a lot of these kids don't really understand what it really takes to be somebody in your position.
Yeah. It's interesting because even as like I've been playing in my city for like my whole life, and even when I was away in college, I'd come back home and get in the gym. Like I remember Michelle and I would we must have been in college because we'd come back home. Yeah, it was probably the summers, and just like find anyone we knew who had open runs. It was mostly the guys' college teams here, sometimes the women's team. And we're just like, can we come? We would just invite ourselves to the men's runs because we're trying to play basketball. Like we wanted to get better and just play. And it wasn't so, I mean, sometimes it was uncomfortable to like go in those spaces and be like, yeah, we're the girls here, but we're pretty good. So like, we'll hold our own. And sometimes not, but like we were willing to just put the work in, and we had a desire to like do that because we knew the fruit of playing and getting repetitions. And even if we weren't the best, whatever it was still part of the process of being a great player. And not to like call out all the guys here in Edmonton, but sometimes I'm just like, are you trying to get in the gym? Like
Right.
what's going on? Like I know if I had an opportunity to come train with someone, like it's not about me and my caliber of an athlete, but like people were playing and you don't want to come like train. Like it's just confusing to me sometimes because it's a different mindset. And for sure people have their own stuff going on. Like totally understand. But I feel like it's a slightly different mindset where um, people don't really get like if you want to succeed, how much it's going to require out of you. And I think it's way easier. This is in life too. Like it's easier to say like you have these dreams and goals, and for that to sound good. But if that's not truly you're owning that goal or whatever you're trying to achieve, like if you don't really own that, you're not going to do the steps required to get there. So I think there's a couple of things. Like one could be an athlete um, says they have a goal, but don't know what's required to get there, and so they don't do it. Or they say they have a goal, but it's really not because they want it. It might be for it looks good, it sounds good, someone else's goal that they're taking on, and so they're just not
Right.
motivated to do the steps required. Um, but yeah, like for training for me now looks different than I was like a little 21-year-old for sure. But when I'm getting ready to go to a tournament, it is I mean I'm in strength and conditioning like 3 4 maybe leading up to tournaments like 5 times a week doing things, and then leading up to tournaments ideally I'd be playing threes to some extent. Sometimes it's twos, it's working on that 2-minute action 2 3 times a week before tournaments ideally, and then
Yep.
do working on my own skills individually like the other couple times a week. So different seasons for sure, but like there's always a period of like refining your skills, maintaining your strength, building your strength, different stuff like that. But I'm never not doing something because that doesn't make sense with the level I'm playing at.
And to drive home a point you made, just in case any young person wants to try to gloss over it, any opportunity you found to compete and just play basketball,
Yeah,
you were trying to do it.
I was trying to do it. I was trying to do it.
I find that to be extremely reasonable. And just so you know, when you had your beef with Edmonton before, I think a lot of people in America would say to you, "Don't worry, you can cross off Edmonton and also say America as a whole." So
Yeah, it's a
very
people, right?
interesting.
It's not the city.
Yeah.
It's people's mindsets.
Well, on the subject of those people, something that I really admire about, I guess, maybe the current phase that you're in is it seems like you're taking on a bit of a mentorship role on social media, posting a lot about mindset, posting a lot about attitude and, what it may take to achieve what you want to achieve. I want to read something that you shared recently, and this is revisiting your next play mentality.
Okay.
You shared this, and I immediately was like, ooh, this is really, really good. This is James Clear. I think the book is Atomic Habits, which is a book I love.
Great book. Yeah, great book.
But the quote is, "A surefire way to make a bad situation worse is to continue replaying it in your mind.
Mhm.
The damage is done. The only thing that matters now is making the best choice given your current position. Next play."
Yeah.
So for the average high school kid that misses a three and then gets back on defense and all they're thinking about is the missed three
Yeah.
and the ball goes flying over their heads and then somebody makes a layup.
Yeah.
Can you talk to that person about a next play mentality?
Yeah. Well, I think I had said this in my post. Like, I don't remember where I first initially heard this phrase, this concept. But like I mentioned earlier, like I was in my head a lot. And um, sometimes to get out of our own heads and out of our own way, we need a cue. I think that's psychological. Like we need a cue to move on.
Right.
And for that, the like next play connected for me was like not just think about me in the next play, like it was really like what can I do to help my team in the next play? Because if I'm still thinking about me, that's the problem,
Yeah.
like even if it's the same like same life things that happen, if we're constantly thinking about like how we're lacking and we think that thinking about ourselves more is going to be the solution, that's not the solution. Like we need to change our focus from being our self focused to others focused to get outside our own head. And so that when I first heard that, that was great for me because I could immediately switch from like what I was thinking was like the mistake I just made into I can recover that and make a great play in the next play. Like I can recover that and
Mm,
um, you know, not to make up for it, but kind of like
right.
I could do something positive that could already that could be at the front of my mind moving forward instead of the negative thing that I had in my mind that just happened. And so this desire for like, okay, but I want to make up for it. Therefore, I can. Let me just try harder, whatever it is, like switch my mindset to being instead of me, focus on the team and try to do something good for the team. I think that's a great aspect of sport is we learn so much. We learn so like it's such a great training ground for life principles, which is why I talk a lot about it now of like it being these life principles that we don't know we're learning when we're youth, when
Right.
we're like little youngins, but
Right.
that like my eyes are so open to the value that sports can bring if given the right opportunities and the right coaches to speak into our lives at those times, they create really a foundation going forward in life of mindset, of values, of being a great teammate, being responsible, of showing up, of thinking of yourself less and your teammates more. Like there's so much potential when you're in sports to have good foundations. It doesn't always come because sometimes there's not great coaches. Sometimes it's your own self that like gets in the way of you having a great experience. Um, but like next play, it's still stuck with me, and I don't even know where I heard it. And it's funny because when I posted that, I was thinking mostly of like of life stuff that's happening for me in this season. Of at, at once, I only thought about that phrase in sports, which is very helpful. And now, like thinking about that in relationships and things that happen in life, like it's the
Right.
same principle and how great we can just have this short phrase that like oh let me just take that and apply it to this part of my life like it's great shout out to Jan.
I I I really really appreciate you sharing this. And I feel like given what you just said, it kind of teased me up to ask the last question I wanted to ask you. And I'm going to apologize in advance. I have done my best to not ask you any trite, dorky journalist questions interviewing an Olympian to this point. But my last question is definitely a trite, dorky journalist question, and I apologize in advance. Um, I imagine that even though, the work is the same, that everything is hitting a little different right now because you're approaching the end of your professional career.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if you've sort of thought at all about like what your legacy is as an athlete, and I guess my question to you based on that is for a young person that learns about you sort of like through folklore and watches your film or something, like what would you want your legacy to be for those people?
That's an interesting question, Jared. I haven't thought about that. Yeah, I haven't necessarily thought about what do I want people to say about me down the road because I usually am not like it's okay you don't got to talk about me it's okay
Right. Well, and I can
so
tell, I mean, everything you've said so far this interview also leads me to believe that you're just the consummate teammate, giving your teammates credit for everything and talking through everything. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to ask this is like,
yeah yeah
you know, what should people remember about you, the athlete and competitor?
well for me when you ask that um it's I would say it's that um that who I was more than an athlete to be quite honest like
Mm,
I definitely went through a season of like an athlete being my whole identity and that is a lot of pressure that we put on ourselves as young folks and adults do this too in anything we do for work for jobs whatever it is we make the what we do and the most visible thing of the what's that we do our identity. And what happens with that is that when that doesn't go our way or when performance is like not great, because our identity is on the external conditions and the results, it creates like a lot of turbulence,
Right.
within ourselves. And so my hope is that my legacy would be like, um, that who I was as a person was consistent as an athlete, as it was in my relationships, as it was, even as going to tournaments. Like I like connecting with people, I like adding value to people wherever I go. Um, and that like the excellence that I desired for my life was conveyed through the hard work and effort that I put in basketball, just as much as being a great teammate, as connecting with people, um, as the next things that I do in life. I hope my legacy is consistent, consistently pursuing excellence and my God-given potential. Like I just hope it's consistent across the board, no matter what I do, is that I give my best and make other people feel valued.
I am so grateful that you chose to answer that the way you did. I think a theme for a lot of the things that you shared over the course of this chat is that they're addressing topics that a lot of athletes are trying to navigate right now, especially with the social media generation. A lot of these kids are showing up in college being like, who am I besides a basketball player? What's my actual identity? So I thank you very much for sharing not only what you just shared, but also some of your stories and anecdotes about some of your professional transitions, some of your collegiate transitions, the frustration that came with it, and how you navigated it. I would say, given your mission, this was a tremendous value add for my listeners, and I'm so grateful that we got to have the kind of conversation that we had. Thank you so much for being a part of it, and I really sincerely look forward to cheering you on through the home stretch of this. It should be really exciting.
Thanks so much, Jared. Thanks for having me on. Thanks for all your questions and insights from yourself as well. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.